that when we were lighting the candle for peace, that it's not a word that people use to describe me. Peaceful.
Shock.
Joyful they do. Joyful's in my wheelhouse, right? That's my nature. Get that. But also, there's a sadness that accompanies some of it, right? And that's what I wanted to touch on today. I think that both emotions, again, we can hold at the same time. A world not torn apart, where right would always win. I have been, like many of us, watching the pictures from Aleppo and the human tragedy that is unfolding on the planet once again, where men, women, and children are being massacred. That's going on in this Christmas season, right? In this holiday season. For us, for them, because there's no separation. Now, how do I stand up here, feel that pain, and still talk about joy? Is it inauthentic? Is it disingenuous? Is it a wish? The song doesn't use the word wish. It says list. But I kept hearing wish, right? I kept hearing wish. What's your Christmas wish? And again, out of that mindset of a child is what I realized I needed to do. That I needed to step up going, it's not a Christmas wish to a Santa Claus. It's not a song to an external magical being. It is a list that I want to embody. A list that I get to live into so that I can experience the joy constantly present at the same time. There are amazing, amazing people working to make a difference in Aleppo and in other places around the world. There are amazing gifts of time, of talents and treasures to make that happen. And there's so much love. And yet, it can look like it's not enough, and that the world doesn't care. So, one of our core values is joy, right? One of our core values, it's written right there on the wall, and it says, joy is our true nature. Joy is our true nature. It is the consciousness that we bring joy to the situation regardless of the circumstance. Regardless of the circumstance. And we purposefully, as a community, wrote it out and tested it and tried to understand what it is, because for us it represents our third principle, that our thoughts and our thinking create the world we live in. And that when we can bring our enthusiasm, our energy, our joy to any situation, it shifts. It literally shifts. So I talk a lot from this platform, a lot, about how it is all an inside job. And that if you want the world to be different, you have to see it different. You have to be different yourself. You have to be different. In this season, in this experience, how do we bring joy? How do we bring joy? How do we exemplify it? How do we practice it? How do we share it to the world? So when I was thinking about this and thinking about this subject today, I was like, so what does the word joy mean? I know what I think it means, but I went to the dictionary. Okay. Oh, I turned this off. That would help. This is what I got from Merriam-Webster. The emotion invoked by well-being, success, or good fortune, or by the prospect of possessing what one desires. And the word they used to describe it is delight. the expression or exhibition of such emotion. Gaiety. Well, I got that one. And a state of happiness or felicity. Bliss. A source, this is my favorite, or cause of delight. So today, do you want to be the source or the cause of the delight? Do you want to be the source or the cause of joy? To people in pain, can you bring your full presence, your full enthusiasm, everything you have? JD and I have gotten to experience that this last week and a half as we have taken in a child who so needed a home that I don't know he's ever really even had a home, and watched as we've been strained to our limits, literally, and this child has blossomed. I see it in all the examples here, and in the food barrel, and in all the service that you all do here, from the prayer chaplains to the sound team, to the music teams, to the usher and greeters. Giving beyond what is easy and doing what you're called to do. Bringing joy to the situation. Bringing your voice, your talents, your smile, your enthusiasm to make the world a better place. Are you being the source or the cause of the joy in the situation? So no matter what the outside situation is, no matter what is going on in the world, what are you bringing? More pain? More outrage? More it shouldn't be that way consciousness? Are you bringing your solution, your wholeness, your presence, your inner knowing that God is at work? I said it when I stood up here and talked about the Absolute Abundance class. Our first principle is that there is only one power and one presence active in the universe and in our lives. Only one power and one presence. That presence we call God, and we call it good. That God is constantly striving to give you everything you need. Constantly. That we're the only ones who block it. Right? As one of my teachers says, if we only just believed the first principle, we wouldn't need the rest. Think about it. We wouldn't need to pray if we really believed the first principle and lived in it. We'd know that God is at work. We wouldn't need to affirm that we ourselves are divine, because if there's only one, how could we not be divine? How could you not be divine? How could that person on the other side of the country or the other side of the world not be divine? But we need to own what we teach, what we say we believe. So, is there one power and one presence? If there is, you can be the cause and the source of good and of joy at the same time. You can bring your wholeness, your assurance, your knowing what there is, your full circle candle. This must be a great shot, right? Let me see. Surrounded by light, how do you think? You can have this behind you, with you, as you, in your heart, year-round. Not just in the Christmas season, not just now when we light the candles. But you can step forward into any situation, sit with anyone in unbelievable pain, and hold the high watch. That's what our prayer chaplains do on a daily and weekly basis. Hold the high watch. God is at work, and that I can bring my full self to any situation. Disease, homelessness, heartbreak, poverty. God is at work. Do we believe that? Do we really believe it? And I have to ask myself that question constantly too. Constantly going, is there good in this situation? And sometimes my prayer is, take the blinders off my eyes remove the scales from my heart so that I may see and know that you are at work. That energy that I call God, that peace that I call God, that life that I call the divine. Then, sometimes it's just a crack in what I think is, and go, oh, it's good. It is good. I was sitting in the office 2 weeks ago, and something had happened. I don't even remember what it is anymore. You know how those things, it's like at the moment it seems so huge. Right? So, my God. And something happened, and I was sitting with Peggy, and I was like, the only reason I'm upset is I think it should be different than it is. Oh! The only reason I'm sitting here struggling and in pain is because I think it should be different than it is. And specifically, it was a person, I think. That person should be different than they are. Sorry about that. That person should be different than they are. That was like that cosmic wake-up for me. Oh, I stand up here every Sunday and I teach that. I teach it in classes. I teach it in the Absolute Abundance class. And I constantly need to be reminded of it. In that moment, I laughed at myself. I laughed at myself in the ridiculousness of the human part of me that forgets constantly. That forgets to hold these principles close to my heart. And when I laughed, and Peggy and I just had a good moment of it, we were able to go, aren't we just silly? Silly. And make peace with ourselves. So that's what I offer you today about joy. It doesn't have to be, so sorry. It doesn't have to be a big expression. HH, turn on HH. Testing. It doesn't have to be a big expression. Okay? It doesn't. It can be that crack, that little bit of understanding. Joy can creep in. Joy can creep in on tiptoe. You know, I'm a musical theater buff. Surprise. There's a song by Ken Burnett. The lyrics go, when it all comes true, just the way you planned, you'd think you'd hear a choir sing. But sometimes happiness steps in on tiptoe. So what do you know? What do you know? It's a quiet thing. It's a very, very quiet thing. Faith is more than the absence of anxiety. Faith is the knowing in the presence of your own fear and anxiety. Peace is more than the absence of anger. Peace is the knowing in unbelievable hostility that God is there. Love is more than the absence of fear. Love is the behavior of oneness, of seeing the divine. And joy is not an obliteration of sadness. Joy is the expression of the opposite. Joy is the expression of the duality of the situation. And there is good there. We light these 4 candles to remind us that Christ consciousness, that divine spark is within each and every one of us. There is nothing you can ever do, you or anyone else. Let me say that again. Nothing you can do, and nothing anyone else can do on the planet no perpetrator of any crime or atrocity can do to separate themselves from God. Right? If we are all one, if we believe that first principle, that God is at work no matter what the behavior of anyone else, and no matter what we have ever done, you can't separate yourself from God. You can turn your back, you can pretend it doesn't exist, you can pretend that you're just human, you can live this whole fantasy, this whole delusion we call life. But you can actually not separate yourself. In that awareness, and no one else can either, in that awareness, there's a possibility that you can see clearly, wholly, completely. To forgive is to know joy. To forgive everyone because they just don't know any better. It's an amazing, amazing blessing. This holiday season, my Christmas list for you is that you forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for anything you've ever done, so that I may, and the world may get the benefit of you. To forgive others for anything they've ever done to you or to anyone else, so that you can let the scales of resentment and bitterness and hurt stop hiding who you really are. The beautiful, magnificent, divine expression that you're here to be. Think of one person or one situation in your life that if you were just to let it go, how you would be freed from the turmoil. Like me sitting in the office thinking it's supposed to be different than it is. Who's holding you captive? What's holding you from your full expression? My grown-up Christmas wish for you is that freedom. My grown-up Christmas list for myself is to continue to let go of how I think it should be and to celebrate the happiness that this day brings, the happiness and the joy that is inherent in each to every one of us. On that note, I'm going to ask Margot to sing us out of this.